Boba Fett, Boba Fett. I wish the show was better. Boba Fett. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Fett. Welcome to what is likely the series finale of this show, the Book of Boba Fett, guys. My name is Kyler, your host. Welcome to Project Potter. Guys, what a mess this finale was. Absolute disaster, in my opinion. I'm going to get into that, guys. If you haven't seen the show before, I just give my quick thoughts on the episode. This is going to be a quick episode for sure. Season 1 finale, likely the series finale. They don't know if there's going to be a season 2 yet. There's a teaser, I guess, at the end, but it's not about Boba, so I don't know. There's not really a resolution. It's weird, but anyway, guys, if this is your first time on the channel, go check out the other content, of course. Right now, we are going through our Batman review from Wayne to Wonder, so we're kicking off the Dark Knight trilogy this week. Very excited about that. Go check that out, guys, and of course, the other content. Either way, I do appreciate you stopping by. So, guys, the Book of Boba Fett. This show has been a disaster. This is the first time we've gotten Boba Fett in 3 episodes because the last 2 episodes were just episodes of The Mandalorian, which is great because Mando is great. We saw Luke last week. We saw Grogu. And then there was that big choice. Luke was like, hey, Grogu, you can either have this badass lightsaber or you can have this little bitch-ass chainmail that is not even going to be used, at least in this episode. So then we're like, okay, cool. He's going to make that choice. And then we're probably not going to see Grogu until Mando season 3 at the earliest. Actually, he's just going to show up in the finale. Oh, and guess what? How does he get there? He's just flying an X-Wing. What? What? What do you mean he's flying an X-Wing, dude? He can't reach any of the levers. He's got little arms. Is he flying it with the Force? Has he mastered the Force? Obviously not like that, because we see him, guys. They take on the Scorpion droids with the shields. I thought was a nice callback to Phantom Menace. But these shields are like super powerful where like the dark saber can't cut through it. There's a Rancor. The boat. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place, guys. But again, I just want to kind of quickly go through this. Grogu shows up, and we think Luke, the X-Wing, shows up, and I think R2. I think R2's there. I'm pretty sure, although we don't show him the rest of the episode, so I don't know what happened to R2D2. But they show up, and we're like, oh, Luke is going to pop up, and she's like, what's an X-Wing doing here? And then it's Grogu, and then she looks in, and he's just sitting in the chair, and I'm like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but either way, Grogu shows up and I'm like, hey, obviously Grogu is going to save Boba and Mando later, but it's really dumb that they showed us that. Why didn't you hold on to that, dude? It would have been cool if Grogu showed up in an X-Wing or something and he popped out. That would have been an awesome moment. Oh, Grogu's here. And then we're like, okay. And then this lady comes over and she's like, got him in a cart, and Mando is like, dude, why is he here? He's in danger. Like, I don't know. They're getting outclassed. Boba and Mando team up, and it's really cool, and it looks badass, and it's like, okay, but it's like really predictable. And then they're getting outgunned by the Pikes. Cad Bane is chilling here, but he doesn't show up to the end of the fight. He has a really quick fight with Boba Fett, but then Boba just kills him, and I'm like, why are we killing Cad Bane? He's the coolest villain that Star Wars has had in years, dude. And he gets an episode and a half or 2 episodes, and then he's done. Like, he just gets stabbed with a spear, with a Tusken spear. Okay, I get it, the Boba, that's not one of Boba's traditional weapons, and like he forged that so he could kill Cad Bane, but there was no really like build up to it. There's no payoff. Like, Cad Bane is like a sharpshooter and he shoots Boba, and I'm like, cool, he's better than Boba. And then Boba just like kind of right when he's about to get shot in the head, and it's like the classic villain, like big speech before they kill their enemy or their opponent. And I'm like, dude, Cad Bane would just shot him in the head and then said like, your time has come or whatever. Boba's big plan is to go get the Rancor. And we're like, okay, so Boba's riding Rancor, and that looks really cool. And we think he's got full mastery of it, but he doesn't, because he just gets thrown off of it. And then the Rancor is like, you know what? Fuck this. The Rancor is like, I'm going to destroy everything because you're not my master. And he almost eats Din. And I'm like, bro, you just had a Mandalorian on top of you. Boba obviously forced him riding. It just doesn't make any sense that they're like, oh, you think that if he would bring in the Rancor, he would completely control it, but he doesn't. He just uses it basically to like get the shields, and even the Rancor can't get through the shields. And I'm like, bro, how strong are these shields on these Scorpion things? But then Grogu ends up saving Din's life because he like pulls I thought he was just gonna like crumple the machine and like show how powerful he is in the Force, and he just gets a bolt off. So it's like, okay, I get that he hasn't mastered it, but I don't know, man. The more Grogu walks around, the more it just looks awkward and kind of takes me out of the moment. I did like the moment where he jumps into Din's arms, but the truce that Boba made in like episode 1 or 2, they obviously turn on that, and I was like, well, duh, dude, they weren't gonna have a real truce, and so like the Gamorreans get taken down and you get fucking launched off the side of a cliff. Those Gamorreans are dead for sure. And then Black Chrysanthemum comes in and he's like beat up, but he's like I don't know, he's supposed to be super badass, but then it's like he's not, because he's like limping around, and it's just weird. And there's like this whole idea in this episode of like, oh, this is our town, we got to fight for it, and Freetown people come and save them, kind of, but they're just, the whole episode is like centered around these 2 scorpion bots with shields, and it's like, dude, these shouldn't be like the big bad. And then the fact that Cad shows up and then gets taken out by Boba so easily, I was like, what are we doing here, guys? So at the end, everyone's happy, and Boba is like, oh, this isn't for us. I wish everyone would stop bowing at me. The people have finally learned to trust Boba. And then he's like, you know what, Modders and Chrysanthemum, you guys can take this over. He's like, I'm good. And I'm like, okay, so what is, like, there's no resolution to Boba. He's like, oh, this work isn't cut out for us, but he doesn't want to be a killer, even though Cad Bane says, I knew you were a killer, but it's like, well, he killed you because you were trying to kill him, dude. So it's self-defense. And I'm just like, where are we going with Boba Fett? Is there going to be another season? I don't think there should be at all, but it's like, okay. And at the end, guys, we get the best scene and the only good scene of the episode, even though it really shouldn't have been necessary, is when they showed Din's amazing ship once again, dude, the new Naboo fighter, the silver one. That little R2, where R2 was before, or that little like hatch for the droid, he's got Grogu back there. Grogu's tapping on the thing, and he's like, no. And then Grogu taps again, and he's like, no. And then he like taps harder, and he's like, fine, this is the last time. And I'm like, is he gonna like eject him up or something? And then he just wants him to go to hyperspeed, and Grogu's like throwing his hands up, and I was like, okay, that scene alone saved a little bit of it. But guys, just jumping into a score here, I mean, this episode is a mess. This episode is a microcosm of the whole season of Book of Boba Fett, where it's got some cool ideas. Boba riding a Rancor, cool. Why does Boba come and ride a Rancor and then just lose control of it, dude? And there's like, it's like you just went last resort and like got on the Rancor and was like, I'm gonna come over, and it was a cool reveal. But the whole idea is that you should have mastered this, like how Mando had to ride those little things in Mandalorian, but instead Boba just comes in and he's like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And I'm like, dude, we just made Boba kind of a bitch in this series. And it's like, the score for me for this one, it's a 6.5, dude. It's not a good episode. The plot is all over the place. They're like trying to build on this idea of hope, but it doesn't really work. There's like a scene where they're like, oh, we need to get up to the sniper's part. And I'm like, okay, but for what, dude? Because the shield goes all the way around. And like the fact that the Darksaber is supposed to be a super powerful like lightsaber blade combo, and then Din can't even get through a basic shield. What, dude? What is the point of the Darksaber? In the beginning, guys, Din's like, yo, I'm gonna go out with you. Like, we'll fight until we both fall. Like, this is the way. And he's like, oh, it's part of the creed. Boba's like, you really believe in that mumbo jumbo? He's like, I do, but it's like, okay, but you're not a Mandalorian anymore, Din. Like, I don't know if you remember that, but you're not a Mandalorian anymore. So I get that he's saying like it's his belief that he, like, even though he's not a Mandalorian anymore, technically he still believes in it. But I'm just like, this is strange, dude. All this series did, not only did it not really do much for Boba Fett, and I love Tamora and he was really fun to watch in this role, but considering that it took 2 of the full 7 episodes, just we didn't see Boba Fett, and I don't think Boba Fett had a good character arc. He was like, the whole thing was that he was trying to gain the respect of the people of Mos Espa, and then he's like, oh, no, I don't want to do this. What, dude? So what is Boba doing now? Is he going to go off with Fennec somewhere? Which is like where we kind of started. He took over Bib Fortuna in Jabba's palace, and then just we never went back to that. The Fets showed up, and then they're like, nah, we're good. It's like everyone's like bowing out, and I'm like, what was the point of this show other than saying, hey, remember Mando and Grogu? Yeah, that was awesome. That was really cool. So guess what? That's going to be really cool in season 3. But it's like, are they going back to Luke? You know, like why is Grogu back with Mando? As much as I love Mando and Grogu, the whole reason that it was such a big decision at the end of season 2 with Luke is because we're like, when is Grogu coming back, dude? It's probably going to be a while. Is he ever going to see Grogu again? And then they just waited like 2 episodes and they're like, oh, okay. Grogu and Mando are just back together. And it's like, there's no payoff, dude. There's no time between. So it's like, this isn't earned because they're like, oh, you know what, you guys, we tried Boba Fett, but we know that you guys really like Mandalorian, so we're just going to give you more of that. And it's like, okay, well then you should have had an independent story with Boba only. Din, I don't think should have been involved in the show at all. It was really weird having them together. Their moment in season 2 was really cool, when they were badass. But Boba having his own show, it was just like, it's just really weird. And I think it's a fitting end to just a series that just wasn't quite there for me. Okay, guys, that's another episode of Fett. That is probably the final episode of Fett. If there is a season 2, we will be back next year, whenever it airs, guys. But honestly, I hope that there's not, because even though I'm not thrilled with the conclusion, I think I'm like, all right, we tried. This isn't working. They kind of left it open if Boba wants to make a cameo down the line. And then when Boba had his helmet on, he was dope. There was just too much of Tamora. As much as I love Tamora as an actor, he seems like a super nice guy and he's really charismatic and great. It took away the mystique of Boba Fett. Like, I feel like Boba Fett is a lot less cool now. And I think Mando is even cooler because it showed that Mando is like much, much better. If you guys did enjoy the content or enjoyed me kind of tearing the show down, like, comment, subscribe. I do appreciate it. And till next time, guys, this is the way.